Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Coaches and Content. I'm your host, Zach Scholl, and on this podcast, we help coaches get clients through content. So every week, I'm bringing you different guests that cover different things that can help coaches and executives, team leaders. And today, we have a PR, public relations, and media specialist. We have Debbie Goetz of Debbie Goetz Media Connections. You can learn more about her by visiting dgmediaconnection.com. You can also check the show notes for the link to her website. Debbie, how are we doing today?
I am doing great, Zach. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you coming on. So,
Thank you for
yeah,
having me.
yeah. Long story short, I saw Debbie post in a local business group promoting her services, and I reached out to do an interview, and here we are. So, kudos to Debbie for promoting herself because you never know where a simple Facebook post can lead you, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Um, so today, guys, we're going to talk about PR and public relations and stuff that you might not be doing that you probably should be doing for your own business. I think PR is a great avenue to market yourself and get the word out there, and Debbie's an expert in it. So, Debbie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Debbie Goetz Media Connection and what you guys do?
Sure. So I started the company back in 2010, and we provide public relations and communication services to small to mid-sized businesses, nonprofits, municipalities, and individual professionals. And our services can include traditional PR, like press releases or PR plans, press kits, and also media relations and other communication tools like social media, blogging, email marketing, website copy, and content curation for any of those platforms. Pretty much any way that a client communicates with their target audience, we can help them do it more clearly, more concisely, on brand and on message. And we work with clients in the greater Philadelphia region and across the country.
So, I think we always hear the term PR and public relations and things like that, but I don't know if anyone's ever really explained like what it is. So what does it mean to a coach or an executive, public relations or PR?
So sometimes people confuse PR with advertising. So advertising is paid placement. Okay. So, for example, you or your design team create an ad and you pay for that ad to be printed or displayed somewhere or mentioned somewhere. And you have complete control over the content, over the design, because you're putting that together and you're paying for someone to place that somewhere. Public relations is different because in public relations, you're paying a PR person to help you, but you're not paying for placement. So, for example, if I get a story placed on TV or in a local media outlet, paid print or whatnot, we're not paying for that placement unless it's a publication that does advertorial, where like they'll write a story about you, or you can put an article in there, but you have to pay for your space. So the big difference is that advertising, you have full control. If somebody is doing a story about you or writing about you or your client, you don't have full control over the editorial content. It's a third party's validation of who you are and what you're doing, and they're the ones that have control over the narrative, more or less. So um, that's just kind of a little background on the difference between PR and advertising. But for a coach or an executive, PR refers to the communications tools that are used to help an organization or a business connect with and raise their profile with the audiences that they serve or that they want to get in front of. So, if you're a business coach, I'm sure you talk about a client's unique selling proposition. So, what they do uniquely when compared with their competitors, or if they're doing the same thing as their competitors, how do they do it uniquely? Do they deliver it uniquely? Do they charge differently? Are the services bundled differently, and so forth? What sets them apart? And PR takes that USP and crafts messages that are appropriate for each target audience on whatever platform a client may use to communicate with their targets and their prospects. So it could be social media, it could be blogs, it could be traditional, media outreach, media relations. And media relations takes those messages and uses them to pitch to members of the media who might be interested in what your client is doing. So, for example, this morning I had a client that did an interview on the morning show on PHL 17. She just wrote a book. She's actually a business coach. She wrote a book, and it's a book that's geared towards teens with anxiety and their parents. And the folks at PHL 17 wanted to do a segment about it because teen anxiety is very prevalent, and it's always good to educate the public about things like that. So it's taking her USP, her messaging, and targeting it to um, news outlets that either write about health, about wellness, about mental health, and trying to get land a story opportunity for her.
Oh, that was a great breakdown. Because like the question said, I think we all hear these terms, but we don't really know how to do it or what it means. So I'm curious how that process worked. So your client tells you, "Hey, I have this book. I need to promote it. What can we do?" Like, walk us through. Once she makes the book, how does it work? The process of like what you figuring out how to promote it and then how to promote it, stuff like that.
Well, in this case, she has a really, really good social media following, um, and YouTube um, platform. So she was doing a lot of those things herself. My job was more the traditional media, trying to get her TV, radio, print opportunities. We put a media list together. We reach out to, we research journalists that are writing about that topic. And we also put a list of bookstores together where she might do book signings. We are going to tackle some conferences where she might be a guest speaker. And so it's just a matter of um, looking at what the focal point, what the focus of the book is, and finding the right people to share that with, to see if who will be interested in doing something with it. So it could be somebody like you that might have her on as a guest coach. It might be a blogger who blogs about teen mental health, um, who might have her and, do a guest blog for for them, or vice versa. So it's just trying to connect her with opportunities where she can get the word out more about the book.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of coaches or just businesses in general realize that a lot of these outlets, they always need content. So like, for those that don't know, PHL 17, are they? They're not what they're like. Not ABC. There's some affiliate,
They're an affiliate of ABC. Like I'm not sure if it's affiliate's the right word, but um, they they share content.
right? But so all websites, podcasts. Podcasts like me, I always need guests. These news outlets, they always need content too. So they kind of need people like you, right? You would say.
Right. And even now, the internet is such a big source of news for people that, you've got, let's just use the Inquirer or the Intelligencer as an example. There's still dinosaurs like me that are reading newspapers every day, because I think my head would explode if I got all of my news off of the internet and I was on a computer all day. But a lot of their readers and followers are getting their information online. So our job is to figure out where those target audiences or those prospects are going for information, and targeting them in those places. So if I'm looking at a younger target demographic for a product or service, we're going to be looking at TikTok, and we're going to be looking at Instagram, and we're not going to be they're not reading the Philadelphia Inquirer. Do you know what I mean? So we have to take that USP, and we have to look at how to deliver that messaging in the places that their target audiences or prospects are going for information.
So what it used to be magazines, newspapers, things are constantly changing, but I'm curious, what are the main avenues right now to get your word out there through PR?
Well, digital is very big. There are still people who read the newspaper, but they're reading it on, maybe in a digital format. So I think, digital is a big deal. And again, depending on who your target audience is, I mean, if you want to reach seniors, then getting things in the paper is a good, is a good target placement. Um, Getting things on Action News or CBS 3, which tend to skew towards an older demographic. That's a good place to get, to land a story. If I have something that's more of an entertaining kind of nature, I might go towards Fox 29 because they tend to be a little bit more light about, some of their news stories. And they also have a morning program, their Good Day program where they can do interviews and you can, they have guests come in and talk about different things. So when I have something that's definitely quirky or funny, they're the first people I call.
Right. So it depends on your audience. It depends on your product or service, depending on who you reach out to.
Yes, for sure. Like if I'm targeting seniors, they still read print. They read the hometown newspapers, the little hyper locals like the Warwick Journal or the Doylestown Observer or the Yardley Advance or whatever. There's a bunch of them. They read the Intelligencer. So, again, it depends on who your target audience is, who you're trying to connect with.
Sure. So for a coach, because we mainly have coaches, but we have team leaders, executives in our audience. But so for someone who maybe never thought about PR and now they're interested, what would be something that you'd want to make a press release about? Like a book, I get like a book or something you're releasing, but what are you thinking? Like what in general do people make press releases about or hire publicists for?
So, a coach might want to issue a news release about a new project he or she has undertaken, um, or a new partnership that they've forged. A client may want to issue a release about a new service they're offering, a milestone they've achieved in their business or their industry. Again, a new professional partnership, a special certification. That's a way to set yourself apart. If you have certain special certifications or accolades that your peers don't have, um, a, a milestone or anniversary in your business, a board appointment, um, any of those um, are fodder for a news release. So I do work with Newtown Township in Delaware County, and we just sent out a news release today about a historic commission that they're forming to preserve and protect their historic properties in the township. So that's an example. I do work with Warrington Township, and they have a partnership with an NFL player, Josh Adams, who grew up in the Warrington area, went to Central Bucks South High School, and helped fundraise to build a playground in the neighborhood where he grew up, where kids didn't have a lot of parks and play areas. And he wants to see them have a good, safe space to hang out in. So we're working on that. The groundbreaking was last year, but the grand opening and ribbon cutting is coming up in a few weeks. So that's something that we're announcing for Warrington Township. Um, I'm trying to think what else. I had a client that's a nonprofit that just did a big fundraising event, and we worked on that over the last few weeks. I work with Truemark Financial Credit Union on their big events, and they have something called the Kiss the Big Financial Literacy Fundraiser, and they raise money that they donate to area schools to help buy purchase financial education resources for students. So, any of those things are have been topic. Those are all things we've written news releases about recently. Or I have another client that is a startup in the medical tech space, and they have a product that's going through like the FDA approval stages, and they're working on prototypes now. So that's an exciting project. And each different stage of the process, we issue a news release.
So how, we kind of talked about it earlier with the book, but I'd like to know more about this process. So TrueMark, they say, hey, we have this event, we need to promote it. What does someone like you actually do? Like, write the press release. Like, what are the steps that you do from start to finish as far as like how to promote it, where to promote it? You know what I mean?
So for TrueMark, they have a VP of community relations that handles all their day-to-day stuff. I just do their special events, but we put together a package of media material, press materials, press release, a public service announcement that goes out to all the radio stations if they have space. They put out PSAs. We'll put together a media alert or invitation to cover, which is our way of inviting the press to come out to the event to cover it. You know, a lot of these events, especially the fundraisers, the nonprofit events, they're usually that 30-second blip you see at the end of a newscast. And if you've got a busy news day, or there's been a horrific crime or a train derailment, or, a slap on the face at the Oscars, good luck trying to get, your 30-second blip at the end of a newscast. You're competing with a lot of other PR pros and organizations that are also trying to get that airtime. So, you have to be, the more unique you can be in what you're offering them, the better. But and that's actually part of a publicist's job or a PR professional's job is to be a good listener, to be able to listen to what your client is saying they want to do, so that we can help frame their messages and or their story in a way that will help them achieve whatever their PR goals are. So sometimes a client, thinks they need PR, but in my holistic process, I realize what they need first is a website, because I'm not going to promote them anywhere until the place I'm directing people to learn more about them is in good standing. So if they have a crappy website or no website, they got to get that. They have to build their infrastructure, their communications infrastructure before I will actively go out and, I like to joke around and say, pimp them out. So yeah. So we have to be good listeners, as to what the client is trying to get across. We also have to be good listeners because we listen to and monitor the media to see who's talking and writing about which topics, so we can pitch our clients as subject experts or thought leaders. And we have to build relationships with the journalists and the news agencies so they trust us and they come to us. They know they can come to us when they need experts or talking heads for a story that they're working on. So, like today with PHL 17, that was the first time that individual was on, but I've worked with that producer a lot. And so she knows if she's got something else that comes up, she might email me and say, hey, we want to do something on X, Y, or Z. Is Dr. So and so available, on this day and this time? So sometimes we're lucky and they come to us.
So it
More
sounds
often than not, we're going to them.
right. So
We're
it sounds like,
stalking.
yeah, a good publicist is someone not only has the relationships, but also knows what to pitch and who to pitch it to, because a lot of it comes in the pitch too, right? Like you could pitch someone that but if it doesn't fit, then it's not going to work. So
Right. Or people think this is their story, but in reality, that's just a part of their story, and their story is really that. You know, it's unearthing, it's being able to listen and unearth what's interesting about a particular client or their scenario. And so we build those relationships. And then, like I said, we have to be creative thinkers because we listen to what the client says and what they think they want to do. And we have to be able to unearth those potential stories or those hooks or angles for pitching a client to a news outlet or to a journalist. And we have to be good at communicating that to a news outlet or to a journalist. Our clients depend on that. Oftentimes, you hear this in any industry, really. Our clients are very highly skilled in their specialty, but maybe not as skilled at talking about themselves or about unearthing interesting topics or themes about their business or their work. So it's our job to frame that message and frame their brand into communication tools or platforms that are appropriate for their target audiences or prospects and to the right people in the media.
So I'm also curious. So you're pitching a story, you send them a press release, right? But what else? You're also sending a media kit, right? I think a lot of people don't even know what that is or have it, and that's super important, like a media kit.
So it depends. So for the book, for the author, we sent a press release. Basically, the email message was the pitch, and below it, we copied the press release and then a link to photos Actually, hers was a link to a media kit, which had, so a press or a media kit has like a company overview. In this case, there was a one sheet or a fact sheet about the author. And that included her biography. If it's a company, then you're going to have a fact sheet about a company or nonprofit, biographies of the principals or the leaders of the nonprofit, frequently asked questions, any press releases that have already been generated, any news coverage they've generated in the past, product or service descriptions, um, multimedia elements like photos or videos that you can link to, contact information, other clients they've worked with, or other organizations they partner with. And sometimes, depending on who it's going to, you might need financial reports, but I have not had the experience where I've needed to do that. But you can, like a press kit can have you can repurpose a press kit, to serve other functions. So you can take all that information and add to it or take some away and use it to attract investors or donors and whatnot. So
And that's something you can help them develop, right?
yes.
Because you're really like you're almost like their personal storyteller, really. And
Yeah,
yeah, you need to have.
you can say that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't even have legit headshots. You don't want to use your Facebook
Don't
photo.
get
Your
me started on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of essential things I guess you need before you really even set out to do the PR, but they can get someone like you that'll help them, build the foundation, so to speak.
Yeah, I had a client that was launching a product, and the photos that she had were just not of the caliber that you would want to be putting out in a media kit or in a link in a a media pitch. So we quick had a professional photographer go out and do a product shoot with her, and I mean the difference was tremendous. I can't stress enough the importance of having professional photography.
Yeah, I mean, your personal relationships can only go so far. Like you mentioned, you have relationships with producers, the local news outlet, but if what you're pitching and showing them is not high quality or high caliber, there's like Debbie, there's nothing I can do. Like,
Right.
this is a
Well,
photo 10 years ago.
they can't, I mean, they can't use it. They'll be able to use, if you shoot a video these days, cell phone videos are really good. Like NBC 10 has something called See It, Share It. So, if I had a video from an event, I could send them, like a 30-second video and they can edit or upload. And as long as it's, clear, it doesn't have to be a professionally shot video. But if you're sending, low res photos, they're not going to be able to use that, you know. So you have to provide. I just sent something for another client to Suburban Life magazine. They're going to just put a photo and a caption in for me, but they needed like very high resolution because it's a glossy magazine.
Yeah. So if you're like a coach out there or a business owner and you're wondering, how's this person getting on the news, whether it's in the morning or at night, promoting what they have going on, they have someone like Debbie behind them. It's not just so easy to get on the news, and there's a reason why people are on there.
I mean, there are, the news stations have the TV news stations have contact information, and KYW has a tip line, and it's not impossible to do it on your own, not at all. But it helps when you have a third party who can like vouch for you. Like they know that I don't send them idiotic stuff. I did an event a few years ago it was for the Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce, and the gentleman, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was the gentleman who was running the World Meeting of Families. And prior to this luncheon where the chamber invited him to speak, he had his press representative do all the forward facing media facing engagements, and this was the first time he was out in the public like talking. And when I was in touch with one of the news stations, the assignment editor said to me, "Oh, I'm so glad it's you handling this because you do such a good job." So, I mean, that was really great to hear from him. And also because he knows that I don't send crappy things their way. So, it's a lot. I think it's easier when you have somebody that is vouching for you to get things seen.
Right. Someone who has the relationships and the
Right.
pedigree will get you farther than you doing it yourself.
Right. Yeah. Like if I call over to Fox 29 because I have an interesting thing that I think would make a great segment on Good Day, the planning manager will take my call. She might only have 30 seconds, but she'll take my call. She knows me and she'll take my call.
So
So,
how did you make these initial relationships? Like if you didn't know anyone, like how did you get to know someone at Fox, you know?
um, I built these relationships over time. A lot of them came from initial times where I got a placement there, and then I just got to know people better. If I am going to an event where somebody is speaking, I always reach out before the event and introduce myself and say, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Or if it's somebody I already met before, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. If I have a client that gets on a particular news program, I usually try to accompany them because it just reinforces my relationship if I show up, as opposed to just sending them on their own. And most of the time, clients like you to be there because it's just it's comforting for them. Unless I have one client that's done a lot of appearances, and um, I don't go with him, but other clients I would accompany in person, to be backup for and emotional support for my client because they can get a little bit nervous about appearing on TV or doing a radio interview, and also for myself to just keep those relationships and keep them up to date, and see who's new in on the tech beat or wherever. If I'm at a TV studio, the faces change a lot.
So I think it's been a great interview so far. We're gonna wrap it up in a couple minutes, but I guess my last question would be, maybe there's someone who's listening now who didn't know anything about PR. Now they're interested. They don't really know how to use it or what to do, but they want to call you. So what do you think? Like, you have to make it. Do you have to do a charity event? Do you have to make a new product? Like, what do you do to go down the PR avenue to try to promote yourself?
So I mentioned earlier, it could be a new product or service. It could be a new partnership. It could be some certification, award, board appointment, anything like that. It could be you might want help writing a letter to the editor or writing an opinion piece. I do that all the time for clients on things that are relevant to what they do. Um, it could be press releases. We can help with social media. We curate content for social media and blogs for clients. We help them with their email marketing. Speaking engagements are great if you can position yourself as a thought leader or a subject expert, getting out and speaking to people, industry associations, conferences. Um, that's a great way to promote yourself. And events, if you're doing an event. And a big one for me is philanthropy. You don't always have to spend money to make money, or you don't always have to spend money to do good. You could be a collection point for Toys for Tots or for a food pantry. You could send your team out to plant flowers at a nursing home. It doesn't have to be a costly undertaking, but philanthropic efforts are always a good thing to promote.
So that's something that they can do too. They can say to you, like, "Hey, I want to start doing PR. I'm not sure where to start." So it sounds like you know where they should start.
Yeah, I remember years ago I was working with a home health care provider, and I looked at her activity calendar for the year and I said, okay, well, this is press release worthy. And this is, I came up with, like a, a dozen or more things that we could be putting out there for her, either through a press release or on her social media. I do the same thing with the townships that I'm involved with. Sometimes I'll see things. I just saw something on the Warrington Police Department Facebook page, and I emailed the chief and the township manager and I said, hey, do you want to do a little press on this? And it was a bunch of officers that were being promoted. So yeah, so we're going to do that.
Well, I'm glad that I know you now that I know you know the chief of police and stuff like that. Now I have a get out of jail
I know
free.
many chiefs of police, yes.
I know who to call if I get in any trouble.
Well, in Warrington Township and Newtown Township, Delaware County. Anywhere else, I'm not so sure I could help you.
Well, I really appreciate you taking out the time today. I thought this was a great interview, very educational about PR and how it works. So why don't you? I want to give you your chance to promote yourself. Your website, your Facebook, your email, whatever if somebody wants to hire you based on this, how should they reach you?
Oh, thank you. So they can email me at dgetz@dgmediaconnections with an s.com. They can go to my website, which you mentioned. It's www.dgmediaconnections.com. They can follow me on Facebook at Debbie Goetz Media Connections. LinkedIn, I'm at Debbie Goetz or Debbie Goetz Media Connections. Let's see, Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Debbie Goetz, Debbie_Goetz. But mostly it's personal stuff on Instagram. I usually do most of my business stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I just downloaded TikTok, but you're not going to see me posting videos there because if I am, it's going to be it's cat videos. 'Cause I'm a crazy cat lady.
Well, and yeah, we'll put all those links, guys, in the description, so you can just click them, so you don't have to type them out. But yeah, I think unless you have anything else, I think we'll wrap it up here.
Sure. And you can, Zach, you can get all those links in my email signature. All the
Okay.
buttons there have links to my social media.
Okay, great. Well, so it's been another episode, and Debbie, I appreciate you coming on.
I so appreciate your having me. Thank you so much.
Sure. And thanks for listening, guys. So yeah, just stay tuned for next time and with our next guest.
You bet. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon or evening.